When we look at the slide of the ovary, it's good to remember, okay, we're looking at the female body, and here's the cutaway, there's the ovary, and on high power, we can see these tiny bubbles near the ovary wall, and we're going to call these primordial follicles because they are the youngest, and they're going to gradually grow and enlarge and become secondary, which kind of makes sense. There is a primary that's in between that I'm not mentioning here. Primordial, primary, secondary. And then they continue to swell as they mature, and now they get a new name called the Graphian. Now sometimes you'll see a opening like this, but there's nothing inside. You just have to believe that the slice was made and there's an ovum in there somewhere. It looks like that somewhere, but the slice just missed it. Looking at the model, most of us think we know the female and male reproduction system, but do we really? Take a look at this. Do you recognize all these parts? Well, here's that ovary we just looked at, and it's surrounded or covered by fimbriae. And these are the tiny finger-like projections. They're going to sweep the ova after they're discharged from the ovary, and then the ova are going to flow down this oviduct or uterine tube, same thing. So there you have it. It's kind of a practical system. Sweep them down, the cilia beat their little fibers, and finally we arrive at this huge muscular structure called the uterus. And you can just imagine the embryo implanting in there and developing into a huge fetus, because look how thick these walls are. It's going to just keep enlarging if there's fertilization. At the tip of this uterus is the cervix, which can be a problem because the cells are dividing rapidly, which can set the stage for cancer. And that's why an osculum is inserted and a pap smear is done to sample these for potential cancer. Urinary bladder is kind of a centerpiece right here. And you can see the proximity, the closeness of the urethra to the anus, and that's why sometimes UTIs tend to be more common in females because the distance is different than with between the penis and the rectum. Okay, vagina, this muscular structure right there. You can see it coming up here. Very distensible, expandable tissue, very durable as well. Labia are going to protect the glans clitoris, which is it's a tissue that fills with blood during stimulation. Let's see right there. And the rectum, which isn't really a reproductive structure, but it's good to know where it's located. On to the male. Under the microscope, again, we're at the male reproductive structure. And the testes, which hang down here in a scrotum or a sac. If we look at this structure, it's like filled with spaghetti hose. And when a slide is made, it's just a slice through those hoses. So you're just seeing the interior kind of compartment of each hose. In the center are the spermatids. And they're the ones that have, well, they're sperm basically. They can swim. And they're the ones that are going to travel out the penis. And the spermatogonia are the youngsters. And they are near the wall. So here's the wall of the testes. And so as the spermatogonia mature, they're going to go through meiosis or a cell division so that they're haploid. And so now they have half the DNA and they're ready to become reproductive structures. I always think of it like a high school dance. The youngsters near the wall and the older ones are out on the dance floor. Okay, interstitial just means between these chambers. Male, do you recognize these parts? All right. Well, let's start. I guess urinary bladder is a good place to start because there it is right in the center. And below it is the prostate. And let's see if we have that word. Here's the prostate. This is the curse of many men, this prostate. Let's see, here's the line going. So this purple structure here, prostate. Vas deferens, you only see a little piece of it. It's kind of cut away. Oop, I grabbed the wrong one. Here we go. Let's put the rectum where it belongs. Epididymis. Epididymis is where the sperm is going to mature. So first the sperm is formed here in the testes, and then it is going to migrate into the epididymis and out through, here's the word I was looking for, vas deferens. And then it's going to move on. Here it's going to get some nutrition from the seminal vesicle. This little teeny gland, these two glands actually, they work together. The prostate and the seminal vesicle are going to produce nutrients. Because the sperm, man, they're sleek. You know, they don't have any extra space for food storage, so they rely on some help from the seminal vesicle and the prostate. The glans penis, way down here. And foreskin, of course, some men you don't see a foreskin because they're not circumcised. And we just don't know. Should a youngster be circumcised or not? Scientists still can't agree. Circumcision will reduce the UTIs and infections and cancer a little bit of this area, but there's some belief that the foreskin can become less sensitive over time. So I can't give you any advice on that. Rectal tissue, a lot of guys don't really understand the penis in terms of erections. You know, it's not a muscle. You can't get some kind of pump device and make it bigger, and who would want to anyway? It fills with blood, and so if a guy's feeling safe and loved, then these chambers are going to fill with blood and the erections are going to happen. If he's scared or worried, then this typically doesn't happen. So blood flow is the key to erections there. Rectum is interesting, even though it's not a reproductive structure. In the 1980s, HIV spread through the homosexual population because they thought the rectum could be used like a vagina. But do you remember the vagina? Very thick, muscular walls. The rectum, not so much, and so there was bleeding, and that was one of the problems. Okay, thanks for listening.